Hey, it's Todd here. I just want to have a conversation with you face-to-face this morning. I'm sitting here, it's early on a Sunday morning, and I've been thinking about Gen Z, about the teens and young adults right now. Now, I'm dad to 3 young adults, and so I care a lot about this generation. They're important to me because my kids are important to me. Their friends, their peers, their generation matter. And I know they matter to you too. And the reason I want to talk with you is because there's something we need to do. I've been watching for the last number of years. I'm also not just a dad, but I'm also a leadership and management coach and trainer. So what I do is I work with, on a daily basis, the people who supervise and manage that generation, Gen Z generation of employees. And I'm seeing a high degree of frustration because there's a lot of that generation that can't make it. They're not making it. They're creating a lot of issues in the workplace. They get hired and they don't even show up for the first day of work, or they show up for a week and then they don't show up anymore, or they, quote, have anxiety when they're being taught new skills and tools to use. It's not healthy, what we're seeing. It's not good. And about 5 years ago, I saw what was starting to happen, and what happened in 2020 and 2021. I watched as a generation was locked out of their schools. I watched as a generation was locked out of their jobs, paid to stay at home and do nothing. I watched as a generation was locked out of their churches, out of their extended families for Christmases, for Thanksgiving, for Easter. And I watched the implications of that in their lives. And what I saw was a generation that had already been told that they had anxiety whenever they were a bit nervous, to all of a sudden, they spent much of their days on this device right here, or their laptops. They were online a big part of their days. They had very little actual physical contact with other teens, with other adults even, outside of their immediate family. And I saw that anxiety, I saw that nervousness, if you will, just explode. And right now, over 50% of all Gen Zs struggle consistently and regularly with high degrees of anxiety. 40% of employers right now aren't even wanting to hire Gen Z. And I see this. I hear employers say it. Well, we'll just skip that generation. We'll avoid hiring them. And 60% of employers have fired a Gen Z employee within the last 30 days because of poor performance. Now, how's this impacting your kids and my kids? Well, inside of that generation, 70% of all teens and young adults don't believe that they will ever achieve financial stability. This is the first generation that will do worse than their parents in the history of North America. That's huge. And we're seeing significant issues for this generation. So what do we do about it? Because someone said, well, your kids will be okay. You know, you've done these things with them and, you know, they're going to be fine. But my response was, no, they're not. Because the rest of their generation needs to do well too. Because otherwise we've got a country, we've got countries, we've got nations that can't survive as these people mature into older adulthood. I look at China, I look at India, and they're pushing their children harder and harder and harder. And I'm not saying we should do what they're doing, not by any stretch. But they're very deliberate about how they want their children to succeed. And I see our kids here struggling with that. Those nations are the nations that our economy is going to be going head-to-head with, that our teens and young adults, as they move further into adulthood, are going to be going head-to-head with against people from those nations economically. Now that sounds pretty doom and gloomy, doesn't it? It's not, though. The great thing is, the problem is big, but the opportunity is even bigger. There's an opportunity for this generation to learn the tools and the principles that they need and to do really well. I watch as people take the time and make the effort and teach this generation. And I see the results from parents who have taught their teens and young adults these tools and these principles, and as they implement them in the workplace, they do really, really well. Those are the people who succeed. Those are the people who are doing really well right now. And this generation, of this Gen Z generation, they've got huge potential. It's not doom and gloom. The opportunity is massive. What it takes is for someone like you, someone like me, to invest in them. For you to invest in your kids, to give them the resources they need to access the tools and the principles that they can apply in life and in the workforce that will help them succeed. Now, what about the education system? Well, the education system will take care of that for us. No, they won't. I look at the math that kids are coming out of high school with. They've been pushed through, and their math, many of them don't even know fractions. It's some sort of new math they implemented a dozen years ago, and it doesn't work very well in the real world. The literacy rate right now across North America is far lower than what it was in 1948. And this generation is far less able to process complex information than they were in 1900. That's 124 years ago. And we think we're so much smarter now because we use this thing and we know how to turn it on. We can do all sorts of little amazing things with it. Here's the reality. China has a different kind of TikTok that they don't even let their kids use the same TikTok that ours do here. Their TikTok is made to help educate them, to help them become smarter, to help them become more musical, to help them succeed. Ours, here in North America, is geared to basically distract them, to fragment their focus, to keep them from being able to focus on anything for any length of time. So how do we help them? That's why I wrote the book, Fill the Gap, how Gen Z can enter the workforce with competence and with confidence. You see, what I'm seeing is as they're developing competence in these tools and skills, their confidence increases. And the level of anxiety that a lot of this generation is dealing with, it decreases because of the competence and the confidence. So as parents, our responsibility is huge, but the opportunity is huge too right now. We can make an impact on our kids, but also on our kids' peers and on an entire generation. All you need to do is go to my website, www.youfillthegap.com, and pick up a copy or copies. Now, we have a Black Friday special on, and there's also a free gift for the next couple days. So take advantage of those and pass copies of Fill the Gap around to not just your own children, but to their peers, so that we can impact a generation in North America. We're already seeing some significant changes in the culture and in the societal shift in the last while in North America. And we can play a part in that, and we can help this younger generation be a successful generation, but also lead our countries into a tremendous time ahead, where we see growth, where we see health, where we see people who are successful, not just at work, but in their lives. Fill the Gap. www.youfillthegap.com. Pick up your copies today. And thanks for taking the time to meet with me this morning and to listen. Have yourself a good rest of your week.